So you're in the market for a used Ford Raptor, but you don't know what to look out for or what you should be keeping an eye on when looking for these models of these Gen 1 Ford Raptors, specifically the one with the 6.2 liter V8. So I wanted to put together a video for you guys. If you are in the market for purchasing a truck, specifically a Gen 1 Raptor, what to look for, what to keep an eye on, and what to make sure was done before you purchase one with your hard-earned money. Now, with the prices of vehicles nowadays, specifically trucks, these vehicles are running anywhere from $40,000, $45,000 upwards to $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 for a brand new vehicle. And especially with interest rates being high and everything like that, it can cost you a lot of money to purchase a brand new truck. So maybe you were in a predicament like me where you were like, you need a new vehicle, but you wanted to find a good used option, something that was reliable, something that could do exactly what you needed it to do, and you stumbled across the beautiful Gen 1 Ford Raptor. Now, these trucks, for the most part, are very reliable. I did a lot of research on them before I purchased one, before I found this one. I actually traveled down to Virginia to pick this truck up, and I will put a link in the top corner of the screen so you can click on that video and see when I first purchased this truck. But we're not here to talk about that. We're more so here to give you guys the information you need just in case you're trying to purchase one. So let's just get right on into it. So although the Gen 1 Ford Raptor is known for being a very reliable vehicle, just like any other vehicle or anything else, there are some things you want to keep an eye out for with these trucks. It's just the way it is. Number one, when you're looking at these vehicles were made to be jumped and go through sand dunes and stuff like that. So a way to tell if the vehicle was jumped or kind of neglected or driven aggressively or anything like that is to look at this gap in between the cab and the bed of the truck. You want to make sure that this gap is kind of uniform throughout. It's not bent or dented or curved in any way from the top to the bottom there. And you obviously want to check that on both sides of the truck to make sure that there's nothing funny going along with it. It should just look nice, like it's from the factory. Nothing crazy going on, because if the truck is being jumped and is coming down hard, these two pieces tend to flex, and you could tell it was driven very rough and jumped just by that being messed up. So that's step one. You always want to look at that on both sides. Got to check it out. Number two, these Fox shocks. Which makes the Raptor so special is these Fox shocks. Now this truck currently has about a little over 96,000 miles on it, and those shocks were actually rebuilt around 75,000 miles by a company called TSW down in Texas. Now, these shocks are important because if you're buying a used one of these, chances are they're somewhere around that 80,000 mile, 100,000 mile, maybe more miles. So these shocks on these trucks need to be rebuilt. If they don't get rebuilt, the truck starts to ride very bouncy, very rough, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And it's also expensive. I think when I looked at the receipt from the previous owner, when he sent me it through my email, I want to say it was like $1,800 to rebuild the shocks. And you also have to remember that when you do that, unless you have a second pair of shocks to put on this truck, you're not going to be able to drive the truck. So not only are you going to be out of close to $2,000 for that, but you're also going to be out of a vehicle until those get rebuilt. Now, you could always go on Rock Auto and purchase brand new ones, which is probably what I'll end up doing in the future if I do keep the vehicle and it needs to be done again. I'm not going to rebuild those original shocks again. I'll just go ahead and buy brand new ones. But that's something you want to keep an eye on, because it's expensive and it will put you out of a truck. So if you're in the market for one of these, make sure you're looking at some sort of Carfax or trying to talk to if it's a private sale, talk to the owner before you and ask them if these shocks were ever rebuilt. And also you want to check to make sure these are not leaking. There should be no oil or grease forming at the top, at the bottom, anywhere on these. They should be dry. Now these are a little dirty, that's why they kind of look like that, but there should be no shiny or oily grease coming out of those, because if they are, that's a sign that they're blown and that they need work done. So save yourself the headache. Make sure anytime you're looking at these Gen 1 Ford Raptors, you get under there, get your head in the wheel well, look at those shocks, crawl under the truck, do whatever you got to do to make sure you're looking at those fully and making sure there's nothing funny going on. And it's a bonus, like I said, if they were already rebuilt. The third thing you want to look out for on these trucks is a thing called Fuse 27. If you've ever been in a Facebook group or Reddit or on a YouTube video of these trucks, you might have heard this term. Fuse 27 was basically, I'm not a mechanic, so don't bash me in the comments if I completely butcher this, but it was basically a fuse that was, this is the fuse box right in the front of the truck, easy to access, and it was basically a fuse that was put in that 27 location. Well, it says right here, fuse pump relay power. Not sure what that means because, like I said, I am not a mechanic, but my understanding of it is basically this. Ford from the factory, they put a fuse in to control that. From the factory, they put a fuse in there to control that fuse pump relay or whatever that is. And the fuse was underpowered or was causing it to fry early. So the thing with that is the fuse would blow and you'd go to start your truck and the thing would not start. It would literally leave you stranded over a little Fuse 27. It's just a small, minute thing, but it caused you a world of headache because it would leave you stranded wherever you were. So it's not really a big deal. Ford came out with a relocation kit, which this truck has, which is what that sticker's from, where they basically relocate that fuse to another spot in that fuse box so that it doesn't fry and blow up like that and leave you stranded. The kit's probably $10 or $15. It's not expensive at all. It's something you definitely want to ask about, because if it hasn't been done or if the previous owner hasn't done it on the truck before you want to make sure that's something you do right away, because it's something so small, it's cheap, it's easy to do, but if it is not rectified, it will leave you stranded. So make sure you either ask about it, check to see if it's been moved or relocated or fixed, because you do not want to end up in a situation like that. Number 4 are the moonroof, sunroofs, whatever you want to call them in these vehicles. Now, this is not specific to just the Ford Raptor. This was all the Ford model years of this. This is all the F-150 years, model years of this generation, or whatever you want to call it. I have heard horror stories of people trying to use these sunroofs. They come off the track, they break, the glass shatters. There's like a bunch of different stuff, and people, and I guess to fix it, it's a whole type of deal where you got to get in here, and it's just a pain. And because of that, I never open this sunroof. I never open this moonroof. I leave the shade open sometimes like this just to get that natural light in. But besides that, I don't ever open this thing, just because I've seen so many stories on forums of people that went to go open it. It got caught up on the track. It got thrown off. It cracked it, this, it, that. And to fix it, it's just a pain. So if that's something that bothers you, you might want to rethink buying one of these trucks. If you're one of these people that need to have this moonroof open, or you use it all the time, because they have been known to go out. It has been a weak point in these Ford trucks. So keep that in mind as well. The next thing, I think we're on number 5. The rear defrost on this truck has been prone to, I don't know how it happens or why it happens, but to crack the back window on this truck. It's been such a known thing that the owner before me that owned this truck before me actually removed the fuse for the rear defrost in this truck, so that even if I go ahead and hit rear defrost on my truck, it doesn't work, because he did not want to be in a situation where he forgot about it or someone else was borrowing his truck. They went to go put the rear defrost on in the wintertime and the thing just shattered. So I've heard stories where people have the rear defrost on, they go to hit a bump, they go over railroad tracks, whatever it is. I don't know if it's just because it shakes the truck just enough, and that rear defrost system, it has the window sensitive, or I don't know what happens, but the rear window shatters on these trucks because of that rear defrost. So 2 things to keep in mind when you're in here. Watch out for these sunroofs, because they're prone to break, and watch out for that rear defrost too. Same thing with me, just like I told you guys with the sunroof, I don't even use the rear defrost. The fuse is pulled out of it because I do not want to run into a situation where I'm just casually driving my Ford Raptor down the street and the rear window just goes out, gets blown out. I don't need that to happen to me. I know glass is expensive to fix. I'm not in the mood. I don't want to deal with it. So keep that in mind as well. And as always, guys, when you're buying any sort of used vehicle, pull the Carfax, look at the title, make sure it's a clean title. I think to pull a Carfax on a vehicle, it's like $45. but pull the Carfax and make sure that, you know, if you could see any sort of maintenance history or anything like that, you can get a good idea of how well the vehicle's been taken care of based off of its Carfax. If you see that the owner was taking it to the Ford dealership every 5,000 miles for maintenance and oil changes and stuff, then you know it was probably someone that really cared about it and didn't neglect the truck. However, if you look at the Carfax and you don't see much information on there, it could be a number of things. It could be the guy neglected it. It could be that the person owned the vehicle, just did all the work themselves, DIY, and they handled all the stuff themselves, which isn't bad. I do my own oil changes on this truck, so it's not going to be documented on the Carfax. But it's all stuff to look out for, but that just goes for any vehicle that you're purchasing. Make sure you pull that Carfax and just look, try to get as much information about the vehicle as you can. Another thing I want to talk about, I don't really have an understanding for this because like I said, I'm not a mechanic, but this is all stuff that I'm mentioning that you guys can Google to get more information on from someone that's more well-versed in it, is it's called the lead frame on these trucks, and there's a bit of like a discrepancy going on with this. So the lead frame, from my understanding, is something with the transmission of these trucks, and they were prone to go out on these vehicles. Now, there was a recall issued by Ford for this Gen 1 Raptor. I don't know if it was for the regular F-150s too, but I know it was for the Raptor for sure. And basically, it was a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty from Ford. It was a recall that if the lead frame goes out, you go to Ford, they go ahead, it's under warranty, they replace it, no big deal. But from my understanding, that if the lead frame didn't go out, you couldn't just go to Ford and say, hey, I'm in that warranty period still, so I want to get that changed. It was just kind of one of those things that you have to keep the truck, and if it goes out, then you come talk to them, which kind of sucked, but this is where the discrepancy comes in. Now, I heard different things. I've heard things along the lines of it was with the earlier model F-150 Raptors, and the 2014 was exempt from this lead frame issue, which is what I have as a 2014. But then I've also heard horror stories of guys posting in groups saying, hey, I have a 2014 and my lead frame went out on my truck and now I'm in a situation. The reason why it's so terrible is because if it does go out, your truck is down. You're stranded. You can't move. I've heard of stories of people driving the vehicle and the lead frame goes out and it automatically sends them into like first gear. They could be traveling at 60 miles per hour. Boom, something will flash up on the truck, on the gauges. It'll kick it down to first gear. You'll come to a screeching halt. Your transmission or that piece alone is fried, and then you're in a situation. And it's like similar to like I mentioned with the suspension, with the shocks. It's one of those things that if it does go out, not only is it going to be expensive, but you're also out of a truck. You cannot use the vehicle. So my advice is this. If you're looking at a 2014, which was the last model year, this Gen 1 Ford Raptor, I've heard things like it's exempt. You don't got to worry about that lead frame. If you're looking at the earlier model years of the truck, you might want to check out if that's ever been done, or look at the years, the mileage and stuff to see. I've also heard stories that guys were over that 10-year, 100,000-mile mark. The lead frame went out. They went to their local Ford dealership, and they still went ahead and replaced it for them, even though they were technically out of that warranty window, or that recall window, whatever you want to call it. So something else to think of too, but Google that, because like I said, I'm not a mechanic and I'm just trying to get these bullet points and these facts out to you guys quick so you guys can do your own research and check it out. But besides those major things that I just mentioned, the 6.2 liter V8 from Ford has been known to be a pretty reliable engine for the most part. If you keep an eye on those things that I mentioned, or check them when you're in your hunt for buying one of these trucks, whether it's from a dealership or a private party, you should be in pretty good shape. Another thing I just remembered while I was walking around the back, these lights, these third brake lights on these trucks have been known to get water in them. And when they get water in them, it's a situation where it starts messing with the electronics inside the truck. I guess the seals around those third brake lights kind of get weak over time, or loose, or whatever, and rain gets in there, or water from a car wash, or whatever it is. So check that third brake light too if you're looking at these trucks. If there's any condensation in it, or it looks like it's sweating on the inside from water being in there, or it looks humid on the inside, that condensation like I mentioned, that's something to look for too, because that's no good. It's not just going to cause problems with the third brake light, it's going to give you other issues with the truck as well. So definitely want to keep an eye on that. Make sure you glance up there, look at it, stand in the truck bed and go up there and look closer if you need to. Anything to make sure you're covering yourself when it comes down to that stuff. And then remember too, if you are buying this truck, these are big tires, they are expensive tires. So just like any type of bargaining when you're buying a vehicle, check the tires, check the brakes and rotors. You know, tell them, these tires are gonna cost you a pretty penny to replace when it's time to do so. Use that as a bargaining tool. Use any of these things I said as a bargaining tool at a dealership or a private party sale. Tell them, hey, you have this truck, it has 120,000 miles. The suspension has never been rebuilt. I need to buy new suspension. I need you to knock off $1,500, $2,000 off the price of the truck. That's maintenance that needs to be done. Bring up the Fuse 27, even though it's not expensive, it's also something that you need. If you're going a far distance to pick up this vehicle and you're going to drive it back home, that's something you need to make sure you handle too, because when you're stopping, if you're at a rest stop or you stop at a gas station on the way home and all of a sudden you go to turn the key and the truck doesn't start, it is from the Fuse 27 and it's a $15 part. Maybe that's something you should arrange with the seller before you go make the move to go pick up the truck. Like, hey, would you mind buying that kit and replacing that really quick before I come down there and try to drive this thing home? Now, I'm not trying to scare you guys with these things. I know the stuff I'm mentioning sounds like a lot and it sounds scary, like you're going to be out of luck with a truck, but I'm telling you, it's pretty minor things when you really look at the truck as a whole. These are pretty minor things, and a lot of the things already, there's a fix for them. So is just like anything else, as long as you stay up on the maintenance, you pay attention to these things, make sure that they were addressed, make sure that they were fixed, and that the truck wasn't neglected or jumped off of a mountain somewhere, you should be in pretty good shape. But like always, do your research, pull the Carfax, get a pre-purchase inspection, a PPI, have a mechanic look at the vehicle before you go ahead and you leave, and do what you think is best. I mean, I'm not a mechanic, but I was able to do some research and kind of figure out what to look for and what I need to keep an eye on when I went to go look at the trucks. And that was good enough for me. And luckily, knock on wood, the Raptor has been good to me. But that's it, guys. I just wanted to do a quick video on the Raptor because I know there's always people that are in the market for these. Like I said, you can get a nice lower mileage, cleaner one of these trucks for copyright, we gotta turn that down. You can get a nice lower mileage, clean version of these trucks for $32,000, $35,000, $40,000, $45,000 if it has a supercharger on it. And they're not bad trucks. I've done videos on my page of this truck before where I pointed out, look at my 5 things I love video. I'll post another box up here so you could check that out, where I go over, like, for the money, for $35,000 in today's car market, you are getting a lot of truck for the money compared to going to a dealership and buying something brand new for $60,000. Yes, you have a warranty with those vehicles. Yes, they're brand new. They might have more features and stuff, but if you're in the market for a Raptor, there's nothing like a Ford Raptor. It's that specific vehicle. It stands out, and there's a lot of people that try to imitate it with the fake grills and everything like that, but there's nothing like the real deal. So if you're in the market for one of these trucks and you're looking, I hope this video helped you. If there's any of the things that I mentioned, any of those points that I mentioned, if you need more clarification, just go on Google, type them in: Ford Raptor Fuse 27, Ford Raptor lead frame issue. Type any of those things in, and I'm sure you can find some sort of forums or anything that talks more on it, fixes and stuff. But I just wanted to come on here and give a quick video for you guys to give you some sort of information, because when I first started looking at these trucks, there wasn't a lot of YouTube videos on them. There wasn't a lot of info like that. So I'm trying to help you guys if you're in the market for one. But that's all I got for you guys. If you appreciate the video, you appreciate the information, if I helped you out, go ahead, like the video, comment, subscribe. And I'm going to roll the outro for you guys. On that outro, I'm going to put the very first video I ever posted of this Ford Raptor when I went to go pick it up with my girlfriend. So I'm going to let this outro play. Click that video. Go watch it. Go check it out. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace!